In part 1 we visited some rough areas of London, but now things are going to get seriously mucky. Forget fancy pubs where a pint will set you back £8. We're heading for the places where you can get knickers and a cheeseburger and still get change for £5. This is the top 20 worst places in London, part 2. Number 10, Wembley. We start off on the Harrow Road here, crossing the North Circular Road into Wembley. Cheap fast food places are everywhere along this street, as is the rubbish, and it is absolutely covered in rubbish. And with this road running between Paddington and Heathrow with all the delightful places in between, police sirens are a regular soundtrack. Somebody clearly got tired mopping the streets and somebody else got too tired to bring their shopping trolley back to the supermarket. Wembley has many high-rises, some old, some modern, pretty much all of them ugly. After we pass by this public toilet that hasn't been open for years, we now get into the real nitty-gritty, the real ugliness. I'm talking about this building here. In particular, the colour scheme. Yellowy, lime green and brown, or as I like to call it, the piss and shit building. Somebody's written "I love Wembley" on this boarded up building. Well, somebody has to. Construction is going on all the time in Wembley. These buildings here dwarf the high road. Here we have some more Meccano buildings. These buildings are pretty new and they already look cheap. I mean, imagine how they're going to look in 20 years' time. Wembley has a high Asian population. Here is the Central Mosque, and probably the most impressive building in Wembley is the Hindu temple Sri Sanatan Hindu Mandir. There is also an Anglican church, a Baptist church, and a gospel hall, all here on Ealing Road. And if you like curry, if you like Indian food, then Wembley is definitely the place for you. Sadly, many of the bins look like this, and the buildings don't look much better either. This is Wembley Central Shopping Centre. And we've got some more mess down here at street level. And it looks like someone's just gone out and bought a whole new wardrobe. Those jeans are so 2024. And no caption nor narration required for this, just more lacking in civic pride. More out of fashion denim. Welcome to Wembley, say the Lionesses. Wembley, Wembley, if she don't come I'll tickle her bum with a lump of... Wait, no, that's not it. Moving on. The environs of Wembley Stadium are very different to what they used to be. The stadium now is surrounded by modern hotels, bars, restaurants and apartments. It's pretty much night and day in comparison to the town centre. Bobby Moore, the greatest captain England has ever had, stands proudly over the scene below. Luckily for Bobby and the rugby league heroes here, they have their backs to the actual town of Wembley. In the immediate vicinity as well, there are loads of shops, the Brent Civic Centre and the Wembley Arena. London's third box park is here. The other two were featured on part 1 of this series. If you haven't seen that, then check the pinned comment for the link. My favourite story about box park is when a drunk customer started threatening a bouncer. The bouncer had enough and knocked the guy out with a single punch. This customer didn't realise at the time the bouncer he was threatening was former professional heavyweight boxer Julius Francis, who's been in the ring with Mike Tyson. A warm welcome to number 9, Bethnal Green. So we're heading from west to East London now, on what was once one of London's most notorious areas. Jack the Ripper used to operate in part of Bethnal Green in what was considered an East End Victorian slum area. The area was severely affected during the Blitz in World War II, and in the 1960s the Craze brothers, Ronnie and Reggie, ruled the streets here with an iron fist. These days it is a predominantly Asian area, slightly gentrified with Shoreditch and Brick Lane nearby. As you'll see on this video, this area is more about jalfrezi than jelly deals in 2025, with most of the old terraced houses demolished. These are some of the old cobbled streets and old apartment buildings that I could find. This is Valence Road where the Cray twins grew up. The old house has been knocked down in favour of this one, but I can still almost hear Violet Cray call out, "My Ronnie and Reggie are good boys." Okay, they might have intimidated people, extorted people, buggered young boys, beat, stabbed, shot and murdered people, but they are still good boys and they love their old mum. Repton Boxing Club is set in this old Victorian bathhouse. Neighbours, everybody needs good neighbours, preferably ones who don't fly tip everywhere. Do you know what? £2.5 grand seems fair to me. The street art, if you can call it that, is several levels below that of Shoreditch. Some of the old 60s buildings are still around, but most of the old Cockney atmosphere and culture has disappeared nowadays. In fact, I'd argue that it exists more in Kent and Essex these days than it does in London. Unless you watch the EastEnders TV programme where it's still alive and well. So let's get a couple of Britney Spears down our Gregory's, make mine a Nelson, down the old rubber-dub-dub, and let's move on to our next destination. Number 8, barking. Woof woof. I know, nothing but high quality gags on this channel. No more dog jokes, okay, no more dog jokes. Culturally, barking is arguably more part of Essex, but these days it is classed as London, so before the whinge bags and the comments start, check it, Google it. Barking is an ancient town with an ancient abbey, first established in the year 666, and you're not allowed to camp there. Somebody needs to tell this person. The remains of the abbey is all open to the public and you can just go in and walk around, which is great. The local squirrels are quite friendly until they find you have no food and then they promptly sod off. This is the most popular area of Barking, if you're a cider drinker. Let's head off to town then, and Peacock's apparently has its entrance around the corner. No it doesn't. And just here we have an old school cafe with the last of the Cockneys. The fella on the bottom left is wondering what the bleeding hell I'm up to. There's quite a few boarded up shops, but that doesn't matter, it's market day. So what have we got here then? Let's have a look. Lots of shoes by the looks of it. £2 tracky bottoms. Mackie D's with a mural. Food from all over the world. More clothes here outside the Methodist church. Blimey, piles and piles of clothes. Hats, shirts for £2. I'm not sure what building this is, but who cares? Look at this. Bloomers for £1. And the food prices are mental as well. Beef burger £3.50, chicken burger £3.50, tea, coffee for £1, and probably a side order of salmonella for free as well. The market covered a big chunk of the town, so I got out of there before I ended up buying 10 Deepak and Gurdev t-shirts and a box set of Kelvin clean underpants. I wasn't sure I'd be welcomed into this museum, so I continued and found myself outside the most garish looking travel lodge I have seen to date. Done up something like a tequila sunrise cocktail, except this is Barking, so it's more like a stellar drizzle clouds. More bizarre buildings made me feel claustrophobic in this strange open space in the middle of town. It looked like somebody had been ripping up bread and feeding it to ducks, except there were no ducks here, so they were just ripping up bread and throwing it on the floor for fun. The town hall is probably the finest building in town, and opposite that is a memorial to people who've died from asbestos related diseases, and just around the corner from there is an old looking wall which was actually built from architectural salvage in 2007 to cover up the ice and car park you see here. There are too many of these horrible cheap looking buildings for my taste. Vicarage Field is a shopping centre. I know you're dying to go in and have a look around. It's a shopping centre, a dated shopping centre. But what do we have here? What do we have? We have bloomers for £1. The town centre has a few high-rises, uninspiring streets, and the shops are not especially inviting. Barking's crime rate is higher than the London average. It's a poorer area than the average for London, and it's further out of central London than most places. But it's not those things that I dislike about Barking. It's more of a kind of intangible feeling of being run down, grey, nobody seems particularly happy, like a sense of doom perhaps facilitated by the fact that the Abbey was established in the year 666, and that's put a curse on the town and doomed it to an eternity of uninspiring architecture, roundabouts with crappy ornaments and fly-tip mattresses, smashed up traffic lights, rubbish everywhere, a creepy watery logo thing at the swimming pool, and these super creepy unicorn pedalos. Barking is a post-industrial town, so it does suffer economically, of course with the local Ford factory closing down. I just hope it's a bit more cheerful next time I visit. Number 7, Edmonton. Heading back north now into the borough of Enfield. Just north of Tottenham, Edmonton, and Edmonton Green in particular, is one of the most deprived areas in Britain, and shockingly, 47% of children are reportedly living in poverty. Add to that a generous dose of youths mixed up in gang violence and you have yourself a pretty rough place. It's not nice aesthetically either. The newer buildings look austere, and the shops are mainly convenience stores selling vapes, scratch cards, the same crap as anywhere else really, and that's if they're even open at all. There's a lot of ugly high-rises, and the most ostentatious building in the area is a flipping Pizza Hut. Something else that seems to thrive in many high streets like this one are casinos, and you'll notice in a moment how the next one has translations, so don't miss out on anyone, in Romanian, Polish, Albanian, Bulgarian and Lithuanian. This little trickle of water here called Salmon's Brook is festooned with garbage. I feel sorry for the ducks that have to live in it. Once upon a time this was a public library, it's now a mosque, although there is another more central library in Edmonton Green. There is the occasional nice street in Edmonton like this one, but although the buildings look nice structurally and aesthetically, they just don't look very well looked after. Cake. Heading up to the central area now, and this is Edmonton Green Shopping Centre, looking very 60s with the concrete high-rises looking down upon us. At least inside somebody tried to brighten it up a little bit. And it still looks very 60s inside. This is a covered market inside the shopping centre. It's mostly fruit and veg stalls with the odd bookie. Oh yeah. And a pissed up bloke on a mobility scooter getting chucked out of the Irish pub. In the 1970s, Edmonton was in the news for supernatural activity in what was dubbed the Enfield poltergeist. The town gives its name to the much larger city of Edmonton, the capital of Alberta state in Canada, which has a population of over 1 million. Edmonton feels like it's that far away from central London that nothing really gets invested in it, and it kind of gets forgotten about. Tottenham next door is being invested in heavily, with a ton of construction going on around Tottenham Hale, but Edmonton just seems like it's stuck in 2011 when the riots were kicking off. Number 6. Harlesden. Harlesden is apparently London's unofficial reggae capital. This is my first time here and it didn't feel too airy. This was the childhood home of General Levy. Incredible. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, Harlesden was pretty much a no-go area, especially for a little white boy like me, with Jamaican yardies and Somalian gangs all in the streets and the tower blocks. In 2001, Harlesden had the highest murder rate in all of Britain. Now, like all the old troublesome hotspots of London, it's a lot safer, at least during the day. But times are still hard here. Parts of Harlesden are some of the most deprived in all of Britain. Gentrification is non-existent here. Homelessness, crappy graffiti, general mess, and in a minute you'll see rubbish all around the Jubilee clock tower here in the centre of town. Here outside the casino there's loads of cigarette butts just thrown on the floor. My guess is they spend all day in there gambling, popping outside every now and again for a fag. A lot of Eastern Europeans are in the town now. This is a group of lads having a few morning peebles. Sure, the weather doesn't help, but the streets of Harlesden are pretty bleak. At least here you can take a seat and swivel, or a sofa if you're really tired. There's rubbish just all over the gaff in Harlesden. Nobody seems to give a shit. Not much more to say really. I think I've outstayed my welcome. See you later, Harlesden. Number 5. Eastham. Eastham is in the borough of Newham. Newham has the highest crime rates in all of London apart from Westminster, which we covered in part 1 of this video series. Now, Eastham isn't the most dangerous part of Newham, but the other places, like Stratford, at least have something going for them. Eastham ticks all the boxes on the D scale. Dingy, dirty, deprived, dangerous, and devoid of anything joyous. This is the infamous Green Street of football hooligan fame, which marks the boundary between Eastham and Upton Park, almost unrecognisable from 30 to 40 years ago. Like Bethnal Green, this used to be a Cockney area until white flight took place 30 to 40 years ago, with the white Londoners moving out to Essex and outer London for cheaper homes with more land. However, unlike similar areas with a large BAME community, Eastham doesn't feel like it's moved on since the 80s. It reminds me of the London I knew when I was a kid, except with more litter. This is the old Treebor factory, producers of the refreshers and extra strong mints. Unfortunately, there's trash everywhere, even in the park. The Sri Malakshmi temple is probably one of the highlights of Eastham. Or actually, maybe it's the buffet for a £5. This is the main shopping area of Eastham and the tube station. Pretty standard shops and some nice food offerings. Haircuts for a tenner though, you can't say everywhere in London is expensive. I'm guessing Seco is the halal version of Wilko, except obviously it's doing a lot better than Wilko did. The marketplace, this covered arcade, actually took me by surprise. It's modern and has some pretty nice shops. Some of the old school buildings do still remain. Eastham was and is still a vibrant place. And Newham Town Hall, built 1903, is an impressive building. Here in Central Park, the War Memorial is pretty impressive, and the park itself, well, is much cleaner than the last one. I'm wondering how long this fridge has been waiting for the bus. Eastham has an air of being overpopulated and understimulated. There's nothing really to do here except shop for things you don't need and eat. A lot of the old houses are looking worse for wear, and landlords are cramming as many people as they can into them. Worst of all, however, are the spate of fires that seem to be occurring. After seeing this burnt out house on Barking Road, I googled to try and find out more information on it. Turns out there have been multiple fires in Eastham in the last couple of years. In one, in 2024, 3 children lost their lives. So, on that sad note, let's get out of Newham, probably the worst borough in London. Number 4 is New Addington. Now, most of you won't have heard of New Addington. It's right at the end of the tram line from Croydon. It's one road or tram line in, one road or tram line out. It's technically in London, but feels like the arse end of nowhere, to be honest. When I arrived in the afternoon, there was a market just packing up, and that's about as exciting as it gets from what I've been told. The parade of shops is the main focal point. And for some reason, someone's left a load of razors on the floor. Poundland has had its windows smashed. To be fair, it is annoying because everything in there costs £1.25 nowadays. Forget shish kebab, how about fingers kebab? You can work off your Greggs here in the local leisure centre. What a lovely design. New Addington was started in 1935 during the slum clearances, and very little amenities were provided. Indeed, the parade of shops was only built over 30 years later, and the tram 35 years after that, despite most residents having to travel off the estate for work. 75% of the residents here are white British, most of them descendants of the generations that came here from central Croydon. Antisocial behaviour has been an issue pretty much since the 70s, with the estate in the 90s being featured 3 times in a single episode of Crime Watch. In 2024, New Addington was voted the 8th most depressing place to live in Britain, between Slough and Luton. The crime stats for New Addington are pretty shocking. As a matter of fact, a man just got shot shortly after I made this video. Bradley Hutchins, 20 years old, was stabbed to death here in 2023, and here is a memorial to him outside the fire station. Sadly, there are plenty more stories like this. New Addington feels depressing in a sinister way. I hope for the residents it gets better in the very near future. Number 3 is Dagenham. Dagenham is another one that's possibly closer culturally to Essex and the Old East End. It's a very industrial place that has spawned some sporting legends like Sir Alf Ramsey, Bobby Moore and Jason Leonard, amongst others. And other celebrities include Stacey Solomon. Between the 2 world wars, motor giant Ford opened a plant in Dagenham and quickly became the largest car plant in Europe, at one point employing 40,000 people. This declined towards the end of the millennium, and production of Fords in Europe was moved to Spain and Germany. In 2005 it was reinstated and now employs around 4,000 people. This retail park was like a ghost town. Apart from a girl in her pyjamas visiting a McDonald's, It's all very grim around here by the A13, fly tipping everywhere, empty soulless retail parks, so I was hoping for better when I arrived in the town centre. Well, this was on the way to the town centre, and going by this, it wasn't looking good. Absolutely abysmal, meaningless graffiti adorned the walls of the B&M. Void, yes, that's a good adjective, I would agree with that. Looks like someone didn't even have time to pack before they hot-footed it out of Dagenham. The residential streets in Dagenham aren't the worst, but they're lined with litter. This is a library and apartments made out of Meccano in the town centre. I mean, seriously, who designs these things? Nail parlours, mobile phone repairs and a cash and carry, the same crap as everywhere else in other words. This charming building here is the Heathway shopping centre. The area and the tube station are both also known as Heathway, or as it's known locally, the Eithway. Another nickname it's been given is Nam, as in Dagenham, or Vietnam, as in the violent war movies, or Slagenham, based on the high amount of teenage single mothers. Inside the Heathway shopping centre, it's time to get things done. Only we can't get things done because the shop saying to get things done is closed, so I guess we're about done with that. Around the back of town is Broad Street, which offers a VIP experience red carpet treatment, although the red carpet is in desperate need of a good hoover. This street is a bit of a disaster really, just about everything is shut down. The Bull used to be a boozer, then reinvented itself as an Afro-Caribbean supermarket and butchers. That failed, and then next door Gospodina Europe Market opened, and that failed as well. Mr. Olagunju hasn't been seen since 2022, so they're just going to knock the whole thing down. Into East Dagenham then, and a nice bit of flying tipping coming up here across the road from the Gold's Gym. I don't think I've said anything positive about Dagenham yet, so here it is, a nice park, lovely, large, green, loads of space, and Number 2, Erith. The St John the Baptist Church is as good as it gets in Erith. Erith sits right on the edge of London, almost in Kent, and is easily as crap as the northern Kent towns along the Thames estuary, probably even more so. Erith is a grey, shuttered down, dilapidated, miserable place that nobody should ever have any reason to visit. Sadly, in World War II, the town was heavily bombed and the town was rebuilt in the 60s, so of course it was done as cheaply as possible, with no thought to aesthetics. While the bold architectural experiments were going on at nearby Thamesmead, Erith was made as basic as possible. Riverside Shopping Centre is dead and the streets are dirty. Even the newer buildings on the high street have boarded up sections. I hadn't eaten anything when I'd arrived into Erith, and I was hoping to find a takeaway or something decent to eat, but the only options were Mackie D's or KFC. I went for KFC, which was about as joyous as having a pineapple violently inserted into one's rectum. The claim to fame for Erith is that it has the longest pier in London, a concrete monstrosity where you can head out and watch the sun go down over the sludge and the shopping trolleys and the murky waters of the Thames. Now, for what I've said so far, no blame can be attached to the residents. However, this can. Due to vandalism, lifebuoys may not be available. And lo and behold, somebody has ripped out this lifebuoy here. How sad do you have to be to do something like that? Erith is an industrial town that I've passed through a few times now and never really found anything positive to say about it, except that at least it's not part of my home county of Kent anymore. Just before going to the number 1 then, if you haven't seen part 1 of this series, London's 20 Worst Places, please do check it out. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Now, if Wembley and Harlesden are a pair of bollocks, Stonebridge is the cock in between them. A cock that has some kind of venereal disease. Stonebridge, or Stone Busy, as some locals call it, is an uncompromising place. Around 20 to 25 years ago, I would not have even been able to enter parts of Stonebridge. This area had a serious level of gun crime and gangsters. Even professional footballer Gavin Grant, who played for Gillingham and Millwall, was involved in gangs and is now doing a life sentence for murder. What kind of mentality chooses doing life for murder over a professional football career? I guess these are the people we're dealing with in Stonebridge. Even the cats don't know what to make of it. If I rewind a bit here and zoom in, you might see this guy going into that scary looking doorway there. Who knows what evil lurks within that derelict building? Could it be a crack den, a squat, a brothel? Whatever it was, I wasn't going anywhere near it. One footballer who survived life in Stonebridge was Raheem Sterling, who unsuccessfully campaigned to save a local leisure centre from being closed permanently. Bridge Park Community Centre closes on July 31st, 2025. Just up the road in Eastham is the Sri Swaminarayan Mandir, the largest Hindu temple in Europe. Meanwhile, this is a church in Stonebridge. Most green spaces and parks are overgrown and littered. It's clear to see that Brent Council don't really care for the place. With its reputation, I felt a bit of trepidation heading to Stonebridge with my camera on my own, but my overwhelming feeling was one of boredom. It just seemed like there was nothing to do, nothing to inspire anyone. Even the churches looked bleak and oppressive. Or just closed down. The modern buildings look pretty pants as well. The recreation ground looked alright at first glance, and then I spotted the litter and a trolley from the IKEA in Wembley, a 25-minute walk away. The bins here have all been smashed up, so of course the natural thing to do is just chuck your litter on the floor. The aforementioned Bridge Park Community Centre is in the shadow of these horrendous buildings, the images of which I shall leave you with. And that concludes this video. The next series will be from the east of England, so do subscribe and hit the notification bell as I continue my hunt for the worst place in Britain.